shot in what they called camera 65. That is a 65 millimeter camera. The images is something like almost 4 times the size of a normal release that you see in most movies today. It also had what they called an anamorphic process that stretched the image, so it was almost 3 to 1, three times as wide as it was high, which also gave the chariot sequence, for instance, the grandeur that it had, because you could see so much action happening at once because of this incredibly wide frame.
The massive chariot sequence took a full year of preparation and required the best stuntmen Hollywood had to offer.
We went over in February. It was about probably 4 months preceding the filming or the beginning of the race, and worked on the teams, drove the chariot teams, and got them down to where you could handle them and they were fit for a race. During that period of time, we set up a time in the morning wherein the actors that were involved in the race could come out and drive and get familiar with the teams themselves. If an actor can do that, it'll enable a director to get in closer with a camera, and whereas with a double, he has to stay back further. And it was funny because the only one that ever showed up out there was Chuck Gustin, who's out there every day, and consequently, when the picture started, he could drive a chariot just about as well as anybody in the business.
But of course, when we found that Masala and Ben-Hur could each drive the chariot, it was pretty exciting because we could go in and get some good shots.
Even though Heston handled the horses with ease, for the more dangerous scenes, Joe Canut still stepped in as Ben-Hur's stunt double under the careful guidance of his father, the highly respected second unit director, Yakima Canut.
The one thing where the team jumps 2 wrecked chariots and Heston's supposed to ride it over and go on. Well, my son was doubling him. The thing had me a little bit worried because it could have been a pretty bad mix-up. So I went over and gave them all their last-minute instructions, and I told Joe, Joe, just have them wide open. Before you get there, settle the team a little so they can make a good jump, so that keep them throwing you over the chariot. And he said, well, okay. And so I figured he'd bought my way. And when we started the scene, he come around a beautiful turn around the corner and into the wall, and he hit this thing wide open. He never settled the team. And when the team just started to jump, he dropped the reins and both hands in front. Well, I just swallowed my Adam's apple, and here goes the wreck. Well, it turned him a complete handspring over the chariot, and he managed to hang with one hand and get a hold of the hitch rail and turn the flip off into the Spina wall. But in doing it, he got his chin cut there, a couple of stitches, and didn't really amount to anything. 30 minutes he was back on the job working.
Now, people have asked me about somebody getting hurt and people being killed and all. Nobody was hurt, nobody was killed. It's a double for Ben-Hur. When that time when he went over the front of the chariot, that also was an accident. So he just went in and shot a close-up of Chuck Heston.
I had 2 trick things there that I wanted to give them the effect of somebody really being killed. I had the guards standing along the Spina wall, and I put a dummy in between 2 of these fellows and had them hold them, and the teams come, and this team comes in close. They just shove the dummy over far enough that he gets hooked for the horse, and it spins him, and then, of course, falls off, and the next team runs over him. And then I had another one where the wheel come off and the fellow drug behind the team and turned the chariot over. I had him turn loose, and as he started to get up, there was a team coming right at him, and he done a dive out of the way of that team, hit the ground, rolled, and ended up on his hands and knees, getting up in a cut. Then I moved in close, put the team back, and I put a dummy on a board on its knees right down to the ground where I could trip it. And as I did, the spring would pull it up and it'd throw his arms up. Timed that and put it in there, and everybody swore that it was a real man and got him hurt.
Not counting Masala, perhaps the biggest loser in the chariot race was one of the $100,000 65mm cameras, of which there were very few. in the world.
Yeah, I have the distinction of completely demolishing the first 70 millimeter camera. They had a scene where Masala and Ben-Hur locked together neck and neck and do a 180-degree turn around the end of the spina. They had a camera shooting toward the spina, so that when we come around the end of the spina, we go between the camera and the spina. And we tried it 2 or 3 times, and it seemed to work pretty good. But I don't know what happened. When they shot it, we came around the end of the turn, and just everything started drifting out. There was ground glass and film and cameramen running every direction. They were right over the top of their barricade. It was kind of a mess. We were very unpopular around MGM for a year or 2 after that.
The final cost for Ben-Hur, $15 million, the most expensive film made up to that time.